Welcome to our program, Coach-to-Coach. Today's guest is Louise Cavell. Louise is a coach. Her business is called Cavell Coaching Conversations. In addition to one-to-one coaching, Louise also runs workshops. Thanks for joining us today, Louise. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So the way I like to kick these things off is to start by asking you, what first sparked your interest in coaching?
Well, it's kind of a long story in a way. I think with every job that I've ever had, I've sort of naturally kind of mentored people,
Mm,
um, you know, helped people, trained people. It just seems like a natural progression. And I've been an MVQ assessor, which is like a vocational qualification assessor, working with young people. I've worked with people trying to get back into work. I've worked actually as a nanny, an
mm,
au pair in America. I've been a guide leader. I've done all sorts of things. And then I trained as an occupational therapist as well, which is brilliant. I love that. Um, and I've also learned NLP, neuro linguistic programming,
mm.
and some other courses as well. So I've trained to be a coach, even though I'm already coaching, in my own job.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's funny. NLP was kind of my pathway into coaching as well. So when I
Mm.
first came across it, I thought, oh man, this is amazing. Like
Yeah.
a few rearrange a few sentences or use a few phrases and words and get entirely different results with things. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I and I don't know about you, but I find in my coaching now, it's not so much me using language to influence people as much as listening to the language people are using to describe
Mhm.
what they're going through. And there's often hints or clues about what's going on just in the language that they're using. So I think that's where my
Yeah.
NLP training comes into play. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I'm curious about your coaching practice, how you're working, who you're working with. Maybe you can tell us a little bit uh, about that.
So, in my day-to-day job at occupational therapist, I find that I do actually use my coaching
Mm,
techniques with people that could be highly anxious, maybe about coming out of hospital, or
mm,
they've had injury or something, and their world has sort of changed. So I use it really quite a lot in that. But I also like to sort of help. I think maybe mums, women, that sort of thing is my area.
mm,
So I just like to help people kind of get clarity in if they've got issues that they want to or problems that they want to look at, but also people who procrastinate, people who are anxious,
mm,
all sorts of areas. But it kind of generally comes down to the same thing of if I listen to people, like you say, listen to what they're saying, maybe ask the odd question and sort of help people sort of pick their way through
mm.
the information that's going round and around the head.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to watch somebody actually kind of find the answers to their own questions. It's fascinating.
Mm, I love it. Yeah. It's uh it's amazing, isn't it? That for the most part, they already know the answer or the answer's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
They just need help finding it sometimes. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I love what you said about using your coaching skills with your occupational therapist clients because I feel like it's uh, like a little bonus when an occupational therapist shows up who's also a coach because they're getting like a 2-for-1 deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. And at the same time also because being an OT is so holistic
Mm,
that also when I'm coaching people, I've got all these other hats on as well.
sure.
So I can sort of recognize if obviously things like overwhelm,
Mm,
I can help people kind of look at how their day is and how they pace their day and how they prioritize things. So
yeah.
it's really interesting to have the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. You use the metaphor of like different hats. The metaphor I've been kind of using a lot lately is the idea of maps. And I think you and I have probably talked about maps a lot, but it's like your map has like, um, I don't know, different layers or elements to it because you have the coaching layer, you have an OT layer. So yeah, when you're helping people decipher their map, you can do it in a number of different ways, which I think is really helpful.
Yes, that's right.
Are there some examples that you can share with us about how your coaching has helped yourself or the people that you work with? Like some real life examples that you can share?
I recently coached a lady that is unhappy in the particular role that she's working in at the
Hmm.
moment, and she's got all these ideas. I want to do this, I want to take it there, I don't want to work in this environment, but I want to, change. But this, I've got these family issues, these things are going on. Maybe I've got to educate at home, all these different things. And I just asked some questions, picked out, things that she said, but by the end of the conversation, she said, uh, wow, you've really helped me to actually get a perspective on a lot of these things. So now I know exactly what the next step is to take.
Mm,
So that was very cool. I enjoyed that. Um, for myself personally, I think when I was younger, I always felt like I had depression, and
mm,
I did actually have like medication and things like that for that. And I just thought that that was me. I'm never going to change. I've always got to take medication. I
mm,
wasn't happy about it. But actually, learning this approach that we use now has made a massive change for me because
mm,
I see that there's nothing wrong with me.
mm,
Actually, it's just my thoughts and my that actually is happening, and it's changed everything. Changed my relationship with my husband, my
mm,
children. I'm everything. I just feel I can sort of stand back and look at things differently.
yeah,
So if I've got big decisions to make or something's happening at work, I can just sort of, okay, let's pick it apart again. I
yeah,
like using that word, but
yeah.
yeah, it's massively changed. I think if I hadn't have kind of learnt this approach and used it for myself and
Mm,
seen insights for myself, I think I probably would have been divorced by
mm.
now.
Wow. Another marriage saved. I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What's fun, the way you described it, it was like two kind of relationships. One was like this relationship between you and your thinking, and the realization that you are not your thinking. Like you're the one who's thinking it, kind of, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. But
Yes.
then extending that to the relationship with your husband and your kids, that, prior to that realization for yourself, they were having a relationship with your thinking and not with you.
Mm,
And now that, and
absolutely.
now they're, by realizing that, it's a, you're coming at life from a much different place. So
Oh, yes,
I,
definitely.
yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
especially with my husband, I think I had a lot of expectations of
Mm,
him.
mm,
You know, I couldn't tell you what they are, but I
yeah,
had them, and he didn't know what they were because I didn't tell him what they were. So
yeah,
he never came up to them.
yeah,
So I was always angry with him.
mm,
And I would have these debates and conversations, and I'd be ranting, and he wasn't even in the house, he was at
mm,
work. So all this stuff is going on in my head, and
yeah,
it completely changed everything. He said to me one day, "You seem really different."
mm,
So he obviously really noticed a change.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how, like you said, he wasn't even there? Like we can spin ourselves into the ground with all kinds of thinking and, um, scenarios and stories, um, and work ourselves up, and all those feelings feel real, but
Yes.
they're all coming from made up thoughts of, you know um just made up. We
Yeah.
spend so much of our time and energy on things that are made up. It's I think when we can, for ourselves and our clients, help burst that bubble, and
Mm,
have them realize that, that's just thinking. It's
yeah.
it could be a huge difference.
It can, because I think I used to really struggle at work and I'd have like imposter syndrome and all
Mhm.
sorts of things. And I'd just spend hours ruminating over this and that, and what if this, and what if she said that, and what if I did this. Oh my goodness, the hours I've lost
Yeah,
doing that is ridiculous. But that's all I knew at the time.
yeah,
And now I'm so thankful that I can see that, that doesn't need to happen.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's interesting. My wife the other day was upset about something, and we were talking. We do our best. Um, I don't know, couples talking when we're walking the dog because we're kind of, talking but not having to stare at each other or whatever. It's just
Yes.
this casual stroll around the block. And
Yeah.
she was talking about, I think it had something to do with work or something, but she was mad about something. So we were talking about it or something. She goes, "Well, I can't change the way I feel." Um, and I said, anyway, so we were like, "Oh, that was quite interesting." And then I started pointing out, that, where do you think those feelings are coming from? And anyway, to make a long story short, we got to the point of like, you can only feel what you're thinking. You don't actually feel your circumstances directly. Your experience
Mm.
of it is coming from your thinking, right? And it's not so that you can change your thinking either. It's just so that you can recognize that all it is thinking.
Yeah,
So you don't need to
absolutely.
change it. You can, if you're pissed off, just be pissed off. That's fine.
Yeah,
But
that's
just
fine. Yeah.
recognize that it'll pass, and it doesn't, you don't have to, give it power or hang into it, or beat
Mm.
yourself up over it either. So
Yeah, that's right.
by the end
Yeah.
of our walk with the dog, she was quite calm and
Oh, good.
relaxed. So it was a great conversation.
Yeah, and that's a great one for anxiety as well, isn't it? Because it people are afraid of being anxious, but it
Mm,
is okay to be anxious.
yeah,
We have a human, system where, we can sort of have a bit of adrenaline and fight or flight, and that's okay. It's
yeah,
okay to be like that.
yeah, yeah,
It's just not okay to be like that for 24 hours. So we're just recognizing,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, I know some of the folks I've worked with that are dealing with anxiety, it's not so much whatever that initial anxious thing is that's causing the problem. It's the being anxious about being anxious about being
yeah,
anxious. Like, it's the
yeah,
compounding
yeah,
effect of it is what gets them into trouble in terms of being in that fight or flight state for too long.
that's right. Yeah. Because all the physiological changes that you're having,
Yeah,
you panic about those. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I love what you said about there's nothing wrong with, like, in fact, your system is working perfectly. Like that, it's not broken. It doesn't need to be fixed.
Yeah,
It's just about a different perspective or understanding. You mentioned when you were sharing the story about your client saying she had a new perspective on things. It's amazing how
mm,
magical it is to have that, the ability to have a different perspective, and how helpful that
yeah,
can be for people.
yeah. It's huge. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm curious, with all the stories you've got and experience that you have coaching and so on, what if there was one thing that you would want people to know? What would that be?
I would want people to know that it's it's all okay. That sounds, you know, silly, but we are basically all sort of fine. We're all mentally healthy. We have innate health. We have confidence. We have self-esteem. We have everything we need.
Mm,
Um, because when we're babies, we don't need counselling. We don't need psychological approaches. We just do. We're just human beings doing things, and learning as we go. And we're like a perfect kind of diamond,
mm,
and it's just all the societal kind of, and the judgments and the comments and all the crap that's put on the top that makes things look so difficult all the time. But
mm,
it's not difficult, and it's just finding your core and realizing that we are all okay.
mm. I love it. Yeah, I like that diamond metaphor. Yeah. a lifetime of layers of
Yeah.
self-judgment. There's a quote that Jamie Smart said one time about happiness. He said, happiness is so easy, children can do it. But
Yeah.
then again, they haven't spent years believing stuff that isn't true about themselves.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
very good. So if people are interested in learning more about you or getting in touch with you or doing coaching with you, how do they get a hold of you?
I have an email, cavellcoaching@gmail.com. So that's Cavell coaching. And I also have a Facebook page, Cavell Coaching Conversations. So those are the two ways to um, message me or have a look at my stuff. And I'll be happy to have a chat with anybody.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for this conversation. I've enjoyed hearing all about what you're doing with your coaching, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. It's been brilliant. Thank
Yeah,
you.
my pleasure.